LISUNGI MBULA 2. Testimony of an ex-occultist 2. In the land of the goddess MAHARASHATHIE, none of the possibilities or ways to get money at my disposal by Professor satisfied my desires. My concern was to enjoy the money like everyone else, without me to set limits in time. By everyone, I mean the rich men. I wanted to get the money that could allow me to help my parents. Yangarn by starting a family later, etc. Although I was practicing magic, I felt love for my family. I thought of the means that could help to improve their living conditions. I had thought to send them money by clever flight, because all other methods first required a sacrifice of a human life, which I hated. This was, however, the only way to help them. But I did not utilize this method to help my family because this money would disappear after the deadline. I was convinced that I could not really enjoy the money the way I wanted it to be. That's why I went to the teacher. I asked him to remember whether he could not find an opportunity to get money without human sacrifice, and the money does not disappear. The teacher listed the 3 options available to me, and then he stopped. I thought he had no other resources, and that was the reason he reminded me of its benefits. After a pause, he shrugged, as if to express resignation, then he said, "So, you need a wife." I did not understand the meaning of the teacher. I told myself, is he intending to get me a daughter in marriage, or has he done so without telling me? The teacher came to see me 3 days after our conversation. He explained, "Last time I told you about getting a wife as a solution to your problem. You know that the woman meets almost all human needs. In other words, it is to the woman that fulfills all human needs, outside of personal bodily needs. We will travel to the country of the goddess MAHARASHATHIE. This is where we will find a woman who can solve your problems. But before arriving there, it is necessary to impose a certain bodily and mental discipline. Indeed, all our protections and our powers are ineffective in this universe. This discipline involves fasting, reciting some incantations prayers in a specific order, for a period of 5 days. This treatment aims to harden our hearts against the attempts of the goddess. There are many traps in her universe. If someone dies from one of its temptations, or if someone likes you, it's hard to take the way back. That would be death. You see that it is easier to enter the country of the goddess than to escape from it. The majority of its population is female, and the goddess bewitches her male guests easily, so they can't return to their country. To my knowledge, these are some of her traps: fear, surprise, panic, etc. We must refrain from any one of those feelings that I have just mentioned. I know we do not arrive on our own. This is why we must observe that fast 5 days to implore the mercy of the goddess MAHARASHATHIE and to control our will. It is to say, not do what we want, and do not do what we would not do. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, you see how in order not to be seduced by demons, I had to fast for 5 days, in order to achieve evil goals. How much more we, who are children of God, we should pray and fast to resist the lusts of the world. 1 Cor 9:25. And every man that strives for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. In Kisangani, chief town of the Haute-Zaire region, there is a river named Chopo, tributary of the Zaire River. A hydroelectric dam is erected before its confluence with the river Zaire, forming a waterfall called Eastern Force in Kisangani. It is a strategic place for the economy of the upper Zaire region, of the produced hydroelectric power. The soldiers are on guard 24 hours a day. It was at this place called Eastern Force that we met the teacher and me, 5 days later, at night. 1 o'clock in the morning. The sun had set a long while ago. It was dark. A cool wind swept our faces. Only the sounds of insects in the water disturbed the silence of the night. The water was still flowing, continuing. Its mad race began long ago. We approached silently to the waterfall. 5 Green Berets soldiers stood guard, rifle in hand. All military slept after the professor uttered a few incantations of magical words to induce hypnosis into them. Everything seemed like a dream. We approached the waterfront without any military intercepting us. The teacher began to invoke the manifestation of the goddess MAHARASHATHIE, with prayers accompanied by occult Kabbalistic gestures. A great silence fell around us. The wind ceased and insects stopped singing. A huge snake came amid great gushes of water. This snake had 7 heads. It emanated from each head a kind of light that illuminated the surface of the water and its surroundings. The circumference of the trunk of the snake measured about 1.80 meters in diameter. The appearance of such a snake would have greatly frightened me on other occasions. But at that time, it left me cold. All these events and those who followed did not provoke any reaction in me. Everything seemed normal. A woman appeared below the snake, a woman of rare beauty of Indian type. She introduced herself. I'm MAHARASHATHIE, the goddess of India, to serve you. The timbre of her voice expressed excessive femininity. The professor said, we come, oh goddess MAHARASHATHIE, to visit you and seek help that only you in any universe can provide. You are my guests. So welcome to my world. Follow me please. By the time she asked us to follow her, she turned around to show us the way of her universe. An extraordinary event happened before my eyes. The water, the snake, and the darkness disappeared to make way for a surreal and magical world. For the first time in my life, my eyes discovered a different world from the one I live. There was a light that came from neither the sun nor the moon. The color of the sky was purple. I did not notice any plant life. Instead of the ground, there was a comparable substance, tar mixture with cement, the whole being covered with glass. I never visited any American or European city, but I imagine that this city could not exist on Earth. We were guests of the goddess. She showed us her world. Almost the entire population were women. My impression was that these women were similar. They were all equally beautiful. Nothing disturbed the peace, the serenity, and peace of this mysterious world. The population was kind, welcoming and hospitable. After the visit, we went to the residence of the goddess. After a few minutes of rest, the goddess bade us to the banquet in our honor. There were many guests at the banquet, among other queens, princesses, and duchesses. During the banquet, the professor would reveal the motive of our visit, but the goddess stopped him, saying that we would have time to talk later. After the meal, the teacher and the goddess retired to another apartment of the residence. The queen, as well as other dignitaries, kept me company in the absence of the teacher. I was already tormented from the prolonged absence of the goddess and the teacher when I saw them coming out of the room. The professor made me understand with a nod that all has gone well. This required that we returned to our earthly abode. I took leave of my hosts, and then, accompanied by the goddess, we set out towards the place through which we had entered. During the trip, the goddess held my hand familiarly. We arrived at our starting point. It happened one thing, and the occult universe disappeared too. Make room for the river and the 7-headed serpent. The goddess was with us and was still holding my hand, like old friends. She said goodbye and let go of my hand. She turned and disappeared from view. The lights that came from the 7 heads of the giant snake, and the snake itself, also disappeared into the water, leaving us in a great darkness. We came back to the same place we left. The soldiers were still asleep, under hypnosis. We had to act quickly and return home, lest the very morning people would see and ask us about our presence in such a place at 4:30 a.m. Back in the city, both the professor and I went back to sleep to recover the sleep lost during this remarkable journey. In the afternoon of the same day, the teacher came to me and told me this: when I was with the goddess, I explained your problem. I made her know the reason for our visit. She told me that there was a strength in you that attracted her. She had thought I brought her a fan and greatly insisted that you remain some time there with her in her world. She felt greatly attracted to you, to the point that she wants to come personally and serve you. I refused, because if I had accepted, she would come and persuade you one day to follow her in her country. You would have, because she is much more powerful than you. I begged her to lose interest in you. She flatly refused, but given my insistence, she finally accepted. But, instead, she has set difficult conditions for you to fulfill if you want to have a wife who can solve your money problems and fulfill all your desires. Beware, my son. However, you are free to refuse if these conditions are found to be beyond your means to fulfill. But know that if you refuse, you can also say goodbye to your money projects. Here is what you must do if you want to continue. Tonight, you will find at your bedside a pack of 17 cards. Each card has a picture of a woman. Among those 17 photos, you will choose the one that pleases you the most, and you will make a sign above the picture. This is the woman who will become your wife. The teacher then explained to me how I should arrange the large table in my living room, to prepare for the visit by these 17 women to me. She will pursue money for you and fulfill all your desires. He further stated, you will be awakened at midnight by visitors. These will be the 17 women on the cards. But beware to make your good choice tonight. They will come to seduce you in different ways, to make you succumb. If you manage to resist until 4 p.m., at their departure, you will know who your wife is, because she will not go with the others. This is the one you have chosen on the cards. Woe to you, my son, if you succumb to the charm of one of them, which is not the one you had chosen. For she would be the one from the world where we were yesterday and has prevailed over you. In other words, you will die in this world, but you will continue to live in the land of the goddess. This is one of the requirements of the goddess. So as not to run the risk of being deceived and destroyed, you must resist the seduction of the others. Good. Now I think I've said everything in detail. Up to you to decide. I had no choice. I told myself that if I refused these conditions, the teacher would not be pleased with me. Therefore he would never entrust me with another method to get the money I needed. Also, if I let this opportunity pass, I could not hope to get money like everyone else. I had no choice. So I agreed. Just as my teacher had announced, in the evening around 19:30 p.m. I found under my pillow a pack of cards. Each card had a picture of a beautiful woman dressed in light and transparent clothes. I took the time to look at the faces of these unreal beings. They were the perfection of beauty. Then came the critical moment where I had to choose one that would forever be my wife. I had no point to which I could support my reasoning because all were of equal beauty. After a while of indecision, I had the idea to make my choice by lot. I scattered the cards on the table. I closed my eyes, and my hand fell on one card randomly, over which I made a little sign in the corner. The next day I went to the market to buy everything the teacher asked me to buy, drink and victuals. I arranged the living room as directed by the teacher, and I fell asleep in my bed at 20:30. The wife. At midnight, I felt someone touching me to wake me up gently. I opened one eye because I was still asleep. In the darkness, I discovered that a woman was trying to wake me gently with kisses and hugs. I was feeling tenderness and deep love in each of her movements. I got up and walked to the living room. There, I was greeted by the applause on my entrance. I noticed that all the women presented on the cards were there, very real and very beautiful. For several hours, they all contrived to seduce me by all means. They employed means worthy of children of perdition, which greatly encouraged me to succumb. But the teacher was strict on this point, not to know any of them sexually before the start of 4 a.m. I recognized the one I had chosen, and I could not risk my life by sleeping with anyone else among them at random. Seeing that I did not succumb to their advances, the women used all the resources of their diabolical seduction. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, I acknowledge that without the discipline of hardness, to which I was submitted for 5 days, I would succumb to the onslaught of provocations of these 17 women. At 4 o'clock, so they said goodbye and left as they had come, that is to say through the walls. One of them remained. So that was my wife, the one on which my choice fell. The one who did not leave with the rest approached me. She kissed me and placed herself next to me. She said, "My love, I'm very happy that you drove my cousins, the other women out. For me, it is a sign of love and fidelity to me, for you succeeded not to know at least one of them. I too love you very much, as long as you respect my requirements, which are also those of a woman who loves you and wants to make you happy. Outside of the food prepared by your hand, you eat only foods I will offer to you, and not those of a woman. When you get home, you will not delay beyond 2 hours. When you go out and come home, you first will have to take a shower and change your clothes before you approach me. In the house, never wear leather shoes. Apart from us, nobody must know my presence with you. If someone accidentally saw me without you being present, that person will die or go mad. But if the person is in cahoots with you, then it is you who will lose your life or reason. As you see, I'm very jealous. However, I agree to fulfill all your desires even before you tell them to me. Whatever your desires, I will fulfill. My name is Helen Malu. Call me Helena for short. Such is the story of my marriage to Helena. The next day I understood why the teacher had found me a woman as a solution to my problem. The morning after my shower, I found on the table a hearty breakfast. Yet there was not even a stove in the home. Without knowing where the food came, I ate them with great appetite. When I opened my wardrobe to dress properly and go to my classes, as I was still a student, I found new clothes, costumes which I never knew existed since birth. There were shoes and slippers. All these things impressed me. Helena had sworn to fulfill all my wishes. The dishes that I found on my table were those that appealed to my taste, it is to say the dishes I would have loved to eat for that day. How did this woman guess my tastes? I would never know. About clothes, Helena handed me pants that were the equivalent of 6 amazing pants. Every time I entered the house, the color of the pants changed. These pants could change color up to 6 times. It could return to its original color in the 6th color. With Helena as a wife, it was a good life. The money problem did not arise. Whenever I needed to buy any item, something that rarely happens to me, that all my desires were realized by Helena. It was enough simply that I put my hand in my pocket, and come out with the money needed to purchase the desired item. This money was normal. I could enjoy it as everyone without risking death or madness, or even without it disappearing after expiration. My wife had put a car at my disposal. Only she and I could see that car. apart from a few insiders. I often used that car to go to my classes. She always topped up the gasoline or diesel oil. Mystically. In fact, I've never been to a gas station to refuel. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, God is jealous of us, and He suffers when we let the things of this world to enter our minds. James 4:5. Do you think that the scripture said in vain, the Spirit that dwells in us lusts to envy? He recommended us to love Him with all our heart, with all our mind and all our strength. Matt 22:37. Jesus said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. If these demonic spirits can still be close to their partners, how much more God can be more present in us by His Spirit. Psalm 139. Alleluia. My wife, Helena, had a different body from humans. She did not have bones, and her body had the consistency of a tube. When I exercised pressure on her body, my fingers felt like they were touching jelly. But what immediately displeased me about her was her voracious sexual appetite. I was so exhausted by our relations in this field that often I lost consciousness in the act. She then had to revive me by washing my face with a sponge dipped in water, or giving me pats on the cheeks. In short, the concept of love was very different between Helena and me. I thought I would end my life one day from her snake-like grip. Early in our marriage, I thought she would eventually get tired, or I'll get used to it. But nothing that I thought was ever realized. Instead, Helena became increasingly possessive and aggressive. Gradually, the joy I had experienced for its benefits faded, and love gave way to hatred. I sought a means or opportunity to get rid of her, but I did not have the courage, because of all the benefits she gave me. However, my decision was made, and I waited for the good opportunity to put her out. Many days passed by. One day at the exit, I saw many young students walking by. There were among them a beautiful girl. I took time to gaze and admire her. I coveted her beauty. I wondered whether such beauty was not that of a ghost, because only the dead can compete with such beauty. I was so immersed in my thoughts that I had not noticed the time passing. I was late to go home. After reaching barefoot on the threshold of the house, I went to take a shower and change clothes. After the shower, I went to explain my delay to Helena. But in the place where Helena would always wait for me, I found the beautiful student. I was seized with fear when I saw the girl in the bedroom instead of Helena. I was afraid of dying or going crazy. I wondered how she knew that I had coveted her beauty. How had she known my address? How did she enter the house? Is that what Helena had seen? Without paying attention to it, I started running in all rooms looking for my wife, while shouting that I had nothing to do with the presence of this girl in the house. From where she sat, the beautiful student was smiling at my confusion. She approached me and said, Do you not recognize me, darling? I'm not the girl that you saw coming out of your classes. I'm your wife Helen Malu. I shape-shifted into the body of the girl you saw today. Here are answers to questions you have asked during the day about her. She is not a ghost, but she will soon become one. Her identity? Honey, the look you gave her caused me much sorrow. This is because I love you to death, and I cannot lose you. Besides, what would I do without you? How can I think of sharing your love with another, as long as you cannot satisfy me? Do not blame me even thinking about it. Understand me, darling, I am here for you. She gave me the full identity of the beautiful student, while crying, name, surname, address, age, etc. 2 days after this conversation, I learned the drowning of this beautiful student. Her death affected me deeply. My conscience reproached me for her death. Yet I was only just looking at her. She was innocent. As for me, doubt was no longer possible. I was sure it was Helena who had killed her out of jealousy for me. From my side, I was horrified that she was responsible for the death of the beautiful student. Time passed yet. Helena became increasingly moody, anxious, and sometimes dreamy. One evening, after having carefully considered, she said, "My love, I have a deep feeling for you. My love for you is growing. I would like to give your family a lot of property, 6 vehicles, 3 trucks, and 3 cars. I will buy for your family 3 shops in the city center, and 2 residences in the best areas of the city. These goods, I give as a dowry to your family, then I'll take you, and we will live in my country forever." Suddenly, I understood what was tormenting my wife. She had had enough of me and wanted me dead. It was the long-awaited opportunity to get rid of her, but we were not there yet. For now, I had to find the words to politely decline his offer. I said to Helena, "The government of my country is not fooled that a simple student like me, without resources, could bequeath to his family such great assets. After I leave, all that property will be confiscated." Helena retorted that it is also true that while she is alive, none of the assets given to my family will be confiscated. I replied that I would not be present to verify the veracity of her statements, and it was better not to talk about it. In order not to offend her, I continued, "I know your country since I have already been there once. There is the calm and silence, respect for the human personality, and kindness of the goddess, are legendary. But as for going means that I would never see members of my family anymore, then I do not want to go there." Despite the insistence of Helena, my no was categorical. I had to end this situation, which had also gone on for too long because I might lose my life by continuing to live with it. Our union lasted 14 months. Professor was surprised when I informed him of my intention to part from Helena. He wanted to know the reasons that pushed me to make such a decision. I explained in detail the sexual dissatisfaction of Helena, the death of the beautiful student, and her intention to take me forever to her country. In short, I invoked the incompatibility of moods. The professor did not hide from me the difficulty of such an approach, especially that he did not recall having seen such a case before. Usually, those who were married to such women were willing to freely accompany their wives. He continued, "But since you are the first to attempt such a thing, I will try to ask a favor of the goddess. But I tell you in advance that it will not be easy. We have to make another journey into the world of the goddess." The pact. We returned to the Falch Hopo, and the same scenario as before was repeated, hypnosis of the soldiers, invoking the manifestation of the goddess, burst of the 7-headed serpent, an appearance of the goddess. She knew the motive of our visit and called for Helena. Helena appeared and declared to be disappointed and humiliated to find that her husband abandoned her, while she had paid her dowry to her in-laws. But she pulled herself together soon after, and said, "I do not object since I do not have a choice. Know that it is not I who left my husband, but it is rather he who abandoned me. Since it is he who abandons me, I demand that either he lives with me here, or he gives me his little brother to marry me in my world." From where I was, I said to the teacher, "None of Helena's requirements is feasible. It was never said in our agreement that I will never part with her, or that some members of my family to be killed because of me. I am willing to accept all your requirements, provided that I could see my parents when I want and where I want. No member of my family was to be killed because of me." The teacher and the goddess retreated into a nearby room. After a while, they came back to the room where we were. As to make a public award, the goddess declared, for the benefit of a teacher, in view of the services you have rendered, we grant you this favor, dear professor. Nevertheless, we tell you that this is the first time that we find ourselves in such a situation. We hope this will be the last in all our interests. She turned towards me and said, it's because you're ready to execute our demands that you live. In reality, Helena's mission was to bring you here. But the poor girl has so loved you that she could not act against your will. From now on you'll work for us until you die. You shall return to your universe with your teacher. He will instruct you on your new duties. By the end of this meeting, you will sign the contract with your blood that will bind you to us for the rest of your days. It will be a covenant. Now you will be a servant of the goddess Maharashathie. I confirm you to have the rank of graduate to the entire Eastern Zone. You're not a novice for me to say what would happen to you if you want to give us the slip. The papers were brought and, with my blood, I signed the contract of my fingerprints. At 4 p.m. we went home as the first time. Continue in part 3.